Welcome to this gentle journey through Fallout 2. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you are watching from tonight, and if you enjoy these relaxing explorations, consider subscribing so you never miss the next one. Fallout 2 opens in a way that sets the tone for the rest of the game, grounding players in a strange mix of tribal spirituality, post-nuclear hardship, and dark comedy. Rather than beginning in a vault like the first Fallout, the story starts in Arroyo, a small tribal village founded by the Vault Dweller after the events of the first game. This setting instantly establishes the passage of time, reminding players that decades have gone by since the destruction of the Master and the super mutant army. Arroyo is a place where oral tradition matters more than books, and technology has become a half-remembered myth. The Chosen One, the player character, is the grandchild of the Vault Dweller. This lineage ties the two games together while also emphasizing how fragile legacies can be. The Vault Dweller was once a savior, but by the time of Fallout 2, even that hero's descendants live in a desperate village on the edge of survival. The Chosen One is not born into privilege or power, but instead tasked with proving themselves worthy through the Temple of Trials, a challenge that mixes combat, puzzles, and spiritual symbolism. Many players remember this temple as their first taste of Fallout 2's more complex mechanics, with traps, locked doors, and poisonous ants offering obstacles that force experimentation. Obscure details in Arroyo show how much care the developers put into world building. The village shaman, Hakunen, speaks in cryptic metaphors that sometimes feel absurd, yet reflect a genuine worldview shaped by hardship. His dialogue is filled with dreamlike imagery, talking of spirits, balance, and destiny. While some players found his lines frustrating, others saw them as essential to the strange charm of Fallout 2. Hakunen also plays a role later in the game, sending visions to the Chosen One that guide them across the wasteland. Arroyo's villagers themselves represent a society in flux. They are not savages, but neither are they technologically advanced. Their tools are primitive, their clothing handmade, yet they carry fragments of knowledge from the old world. The village elder, wise and pragmatic, represents this bridge. She gives the Chosen One their task, to find the Garden of Eden creation kit, or Gecko, a pre-war device said to restore fertility to the land. This quest sets the stage for Fallout 2, connecting the small-scale survival of a village to the grander themes of humanity's future. The Gecko itself is one of Fallout's most iconic pieces of lore. In the game, it becomes a symbol of hope and a narrative driver. While its depiction is sometimes tongue-in-cheek, the concept captures the essence of Fallout's mix of science fiction and satire. A single pre-war device capable of rebuilding civilization seems absurd, yet within the ruined world of Fallout, it feels believable enough to inspire faith. Arroyo's dependence on this mythical object underscores the fragility of post-war societies, where scraps of technology are elevated to the status of miracles. Another obscure detail is how Arroyo connects back to the first Fallout. If players imported a save or made certain choices in character creation, they could reference details about the Vault Dweller's fate. Depending on interpretation, the Vault Dweller may have been exiled from Vault 13, wandered the wastes, and eventually founded Arroyo. These fragments of backstory reinforce Fallout 2's theme of continuity, showing how choices ripple through generations. The Temple of Trials, while sometimes controversial among players, also serves as a mechanical tutorial. It introduces traps, skill checks, and puzzles in a controlled environment. Ants and rad scorpions test basic combat, while locked doors test lockpicking and problem solving. Though some players considered it tedious, it also highlighted Fallout 2's emphasis on versatility. Unlike the first game, which focused heavily on combat, Fallout 2 broadened its systems, encouraging players to experiment with skills like science, speech, and stealth. The temple forces players to engage with mechanics beyond simple fighting, setting the tone for a deeper role-playing experience. The obscure charm of Arroyo lies not only in its people, but also in its aesthetic. Surrounded by forests and rivers, the village feels more vibrant than the barren wastelands of Fallout 1. The developers intentionally gave it a different palette, with greenery hinting at the possibility of renewal. Yet even here, survival is precarious. Crops struggle, water sources dwindle, and raiders threaten from beyond. This tension between beauty and fragility defines Arroyo, making it one of the most memorable starting locations in Fallout history. Hakunen's visions, delivered throughout the game, reinforce Arroyo's mystical character. When the Chosen One strays too far or takes too long, Hakunen appears in dream sequences, pleading for help. These visions grow increasingly desperate, showing the village suffering under famine and disease. While some players see these as narrative nudges, they also serve as haunting reminders of what is at stake. The obscurity here is that Fallout 2 ties urgency not just to gameplay mechanics, but to emotional appeals from home, something few role-playing games of its era attempted. Arroyo also introduces the importance of companions in Fallout 2. Sulik, the tribal warrior with a strong accent and a spiritual outlook, joins the Chosen One early on. He provides both muscle and personality, speaking of spirits and bonds. Sulik's background reflects the blending of cultures in the post-apocalyptic world, where tribal beliefs and old-world ruins collide. His presence reinforces Arroyo's themes of survival, loyalty, and identity. Perhaps the most obscure detail in Arroyo is its connection to Fallout's larger satire. While the setting feels earnest, it also contains touches of humor and irony. For example, the Temple of Trials includes traps that feel almost cartoonish, and Hakunen's dreamlike rambling often borders on parody. This mixture of sincerity and absurdity is what defines Fallout 2 as a whole. It is a game unafraid to balance serious themes of survival with tongue-in-cheek humor, and Arroyo exemplifies this balance from the very start. By beginning in Arroyo, Fallout 2 immediately distinguishes itself from its predecessor. It shifts focus from vault dwellers and urban ruins to tribal survival and generational legacy. The obscure details, Hakunen's metaphors, the Elder's pragmatism, the Temple's mechanics, the Geck's mythical role, all weave together to create a starting point that is both humble and epic. In Arroyo, players glimpse the core of Fallout 2, a story about hope, struggle, and the strange intersections of culture in a world trying to rebuild itself. Leaving Arroyo, the Chosen One's first major step into the wider world comes in the small settlement of Klamath. This town, nestled in the northern stretches of the map, sets the stage for the tone of Fallout 2's wasteland, rough, quirky, dangerous, and filled with both tragedy and humor. Klamath is more than just an early quest hub. It is a microcosm of what makes Fallout 2 unique, packed with obscure details and lessons that ripple across the rest of the game. Klamath is built around survival. Its economy relies on hunting geckos, mutated lizard-like creatures that roam the nearby marshes and forests. These creatures are both a danger and a resource. Their hides can be tanned into valuable armor, giving players one of their first opportunities to craft protective gear. The process of hunting geckos introduces combat pacing, resource management, and the value of trading. The town's tanners and trappers rely heavily on these hunts, making geckos both the bane and the backbone of Klamath's society. The obscurity lies in how this mechanic blends narrative and gameplay. Killing geckos is not just an early grind, but an activity that mirrors the town's survival. The quests in Klamath showcase Fallout 2's mix of humor and hardship. One of the earliest tasks involves rescuing Smiley, a local trapper who was captured while searching for golden geckos. His disappearance has worried the townsfolk, and tracking him down introduces players to dungeons filled with hostile creatures and environmental hazards. Smiley himself, once rescued, teaches the gecko skinning perk, letting the chosen one skin both common and golden geckos for extra trade goods. This quest exemplifies how Fallout 2 weaves obscure mechanics like armor crafting directly into character-driven stories. Another notable Klamath quest involves a missing Brahmin herd. Brahmin, the iconic two-headed cows of the Fallout universe, are vital to wasteland economies, providing meat, milk, and labor. When a herd disappears, suspicion falls on rustlers and raiders. Investigating this mystery reveals how fragile Klamath's livelihood is, and it also sets the stage for the recurring theme of resource conflict. Even something as simple as missing cattle becomes life or death in the wasteland. Klamath also introduces players to the darker side of the world, the toxic caves, a location filled with dangerous creatures and environmental hazards, push early players to their limits. The caves contain rats, scorpions, and other mutated wildlife, but also scraps of old-world technology. This contrast between danger and reward is a hallmark of Fallout 2. Many players remember the toxic caves as one of their first true challenges, a test of patience, preparation, and grit. The town itself reflects Fallout 2's satirical edge. Klamath is filled with colorful NPCs who embody both grit and absurdity. Tor, a simple-minded ranch hand, asks the player to help protect Brahmin from bugmen, a request that borders on the ridiculous. In reality, the threat is giant mutated rats, but Tor's misunderstanding adds humor to the task. Helping Tor introduces a moral dilemma as well. Protect the Brahmin or side with rustlers who offer caps to look the other way. This choice reveals how Fallout 2 rarely deals in black and white morality. Even in a small town, decisions ripple outward, shaping reputation and karma. The Buckner family, owners of the local bar and hotel, provide another layer of Klamath's identity. They are hardworking, pragmatic, and deeply tied to the community. Their interactions with the Chosen One show both hospitality and suspicion, reflecting how strangers are treated in a post-apocalyptic world. The Buckners represent the fragile normalcy that Fallout 2 often highlights, people trying to maintain businesses, routines, and culture in a shattered world. Sulik, one of Fallout 2's most beloved companions, is first encountered in Klamath. Initially imprisoned for debts, he can be freed by paying what he owes or negotiating his release. Sulik brings with him a unique worldview steeped in tribal spirituality and personal tragedy. He speaks often of spirits guiding his actions, adding a mystical tone to the party's adventures. As a companion, he provides both combat skill and emotional depth, grounding the player's journey in themes of loyalty and cultural blending. The obscurity of Sulik's character lies in his backstory. His sister has been captured, and while this plotline is never fully resolved in the game, It adds a sense of mystery and melancholy to his presence. Klamath also reveals Fallout 2's love for environmental storytelling. Trapper camps, rustler hideouts, and abandoned shacks are filled with notes, skeletons, and signs of struggle. These details often tell more than direct dialogue, rewarding players who explore carefully. A blood-stained bedroll, a note scrawled in desperation, or a skeleton surrounded by Gecko remains all add to the narrative texture. In many ways, Klamath teaches players how to read the wasteland itself, not just the words of its people. An obscure detail that many players overlook is the significance of golden geckos. These creatures are more dangerous than their common counterparts, but their hides are worth much more when tanned. Smiley's knowledge of tanning these hides directly improves the economy of Klamath, tying a single NPC's fate to the prosperity of an entire community. This reflects Fallout 2's larger theme. Survival depends not just on individuals, but on the skills and contributions of everyone. Klamath also begins the slow expansion of the Chosen One's reputation. Choices made here, whether to help Tor, side with rustlers, or rescue Smiley, affect karma and reputation. This system is one of Fallout 2's most complex features, tracking how communities view the player across the wasteland. Even small towns like Klamath remember the actions of strangers, and word of reputation can spread. This mechanic reinforces the idea that no action is without consequence, even in the smallest corners of Appalachia's distant cousin, the West Coast wasteland. The design of Klamath reflects the humor of the development team. Dialogue is often exaggerated, characters are quirky, and quests sometimes feel absurd. Yet beneath this comedy lies sincerity. Klamath is struggling, and its people are doing their best to survive. The absurdity is not meant to mock them, but to reflect the strange resilience of humanity. In this sense, Klamath becomes the perfect introduction to Fallout 2's tone, part satire, part tragedy, always balanced between laughter and despair. Leaving Klamath, players often feel both accomplished and humbled. They have tasted combat, explored dungeons, met companions, and made moral choices, yet they are still at the beginning of a much larger journey. The town's obscurities, golden gecko tanning, Tor's bugman paranoia, Smiley's rescue, Sulik's debt, and the Buckner's livelihood leave a lasting impression, reminding players that even the smallest places hold stories worth telling. Klamath is more than an early stop. It is a lesson in survival, morality, and the absurd beauty of Fallout 2. From gecko hunts to rustler standoffs, it prepares the Chosen One for the vast and unpredictable wasteland ahead. After the relative innocence of Arroyo and the hard-working survival of Klamath, the Chosen One's journey leads to the Den, a settlement that strips away any illusions about the morality of the wasteland. The Den is one of Fallout 2's most infamous early hubs because it embodies the darker sides of humanity: greed, crime, slavery, and desperation. For many players, arriving in the Den feels like a jarring wake-up call, a reminder that the wasteland is not just quirky, but cruel. The Den itself is divided into two districts, East Side and West Side. East Side is lined with small shops, taverns, and brothels, representing the hustle of everyday survival. West Side is grittier, filled with gangs, slave pens, and shady figures lurking in alleys. The physical layout mirrors the moral split in the town. One side is struggling to maintain some semblance of commerce, while the other thrives on exploitation. Walking through its streets, the player sees both sides of post-nuclear society, the attempt to rebuild and the willingness to tear others down for gain. One of the most disturbing aspects of the den is its open embrace of slavery. Slave traders walk the streets openly, and their pens hold men, women, and children. The player can choose to free slaves, but doing so invites danger from powerful local figures who profit from the trade. This mechanic highlights Fallout 2's commitment to player choice. The game never forces a moral stance, but it makes players confront the consequences of looking away or taking action. The presence of slavery in the den was shocking for its time, making it one of the earliest role-playing games to portray such brutal systems in interactive form. The town's economy is built on exploitation. Shops sell stolen goods, brothels lure in desperate customers, and gang leaders use violence to maintain control. This corruption extends to the way quests unfold. A player might be asked to deliver goods, but those goods turn out to be drugs. They might agree to help a merchant, only to discover that merchant is tied to the slave trade. The den constantly blurs the line between survival and complicity, forcing the chosen one to consider what compromises they are willing to make. One of the most memorable characters in the den is Metzger, the head of the local slavers guild. He embodies the cruelty of the town, pragmatic and ruthless in his dealings. Metzger does not hide his intentions or soften his language. To him, people are commodities, and anyone who disagrees is simply an obstacle. The player can choose to work for him, attack him, or attempt to undermine his operations. Each choice ripples through the den, shaping how factions respond. This level of interactivity was obscure for its time, showing how Fallout 2 pushed boundaries not just in content, but in freedom of choice. Another notorious figure is Lara, the leader of a gang on the west side. She seeks the player's help in gaining control of her turf, asking for alliances, sabotage, or direct combat. Lara's presence highlights the constant struggle for power in the den, where even street corners are worth fighting over. Aligning with her or betraying her changes the balance of power in subtle ways, reinforcing Fallout 2's complex morality system. The den also introduces the darker side of child NPCs in Fallout. Children roam the streets, often used as pickpockets. If the player retaliates violently, they risk gaining the dreaded child killer reputation, a permanent stigma that follows them across the wasteland. Merchants refuse service, NPCs react with hostility, and even companions may turn against the chosen one. This mechanic shocked many players, not only for its content, but for how it permanently altered gameplay. It remains one of the most obscure and controversial aspects of Fallout 2, remembered as both daring and divisive. The den also plays with Fallout 2's trademark humor. NPCs spout sarcastic lines, bar patrons tell absurd stories, and one of the brothels offers over-the-top encounters that feel intentionally exaggerated. The absurdity sits uneasily beside the cruelty, creating a tonal whiplash that defines Fallout 2. This mixture of dark satire and brutal realism is what makes the den so memorable. Players laugh one moment and recoil the next, experiencing the full range of Fallout's satirical edge. Companions also tie into the den. Vic, a traitor who becomes a recruitable companion, is imprisoned here by Metzger after a bad deal with a radio. Freeing Vic requires negotiating with or fighting the slavers, making his recruitment directly tied to the town's central conflicts. Once freed, Vic provides technical expertise, expanding the Chosen One's party with a character who feels grounded in the wasteland's messy survival economy. The den also reveals Fallout 2's obsession with choice and consequence. Nearly every quest can be resolved in multiple ways, and the player's reputation changes depending on decisions. Side with slavers, and certain merchants become more cooperative, but moral standing plummets. Free slaves and good characters approve, but enemies increase. The obscurity of the den is that it teaches players that Fallout 2 is not about winning or losing, but about living with outcomes. Every action, no matter how small, has ripples. The atmosphere of the den reinforces its themes. The art style shows decayed buildings patched together with scavenged materials, neon signs flickering over broken streets, and alleys filled with shadows. The soundtrack, eerie and minimal, creates an unsettling tone. This design makes walking through the den feel oppressive, as if the town itself is watching and waiting for weakness. By the time players leave the den, they have a much deeper understanding of Fallout 2's world. Arroyo taught them about legacy, Klamath showed them survival, but the den reveals the cost of human cruelty and desperation. It is a place where morality is constantly tested, where compromise is almost inevitable, and where laughter and horror exist side by side. The obscurities of the den, Metzger's ruthlessness, Lara's gang politics, Vic's imprisonment, the child killer's stigma, and Joey's sickness all combine to create one of the most unforgettable early chapters of Fallout 2. The den is not simply a waypoint on the map, it is a crucible of choice, a stage where the Chosen One learns that survival in the wasteland means navigating both external threats and internal conscience. Its darkness lingers, shaping how players view every town they visit afterward. In this way, the den cements Fallout 2's identity as a game unafraid to explore the ugliest corners of human behavior while still finding room for humor and hope. After the chaos of the den, the Chosen One eventually arrives at Vault City, one of the most striking contrasts in Fallout 2's wasteland. Where Arroyo was humble and tribal, and the den was lawless and cruel, Vault City stands as a monument to order, discipline, and privilege. It is a society born from Vault 8, and its people live under rigid laws, clean streets, and the glow of advanced technology. But beneath this facade of progress lies satire, hypocrisy, and moral complexity. Vault City was formed when Vault 8 opened only a short time after the bombs fell in 2077. Unlike most vaults, which were designed as social experiments, Vault 8 functioned as intended, providing its inhabitants with the tools to survive and rebuild. Among its equipment was a Garden of Eden creation kit, the same mythical device Arroyo seeks. With the Gecko, the Vault 8 survivors transformed the surrounding land into fertile ground, building a thriving settlement. The obscurity of Vault City lies in how rare this success story is. Most vaults failed or became twisted experiments, but Vault 8 produced stability. By the time of Fallout 2, Vault City has grown into a self-contained society marked by authoritarian bureaucracy. Its citizens enjoy clean water, advanced medicine, and strict laws enforced by guards. Outsiders, however, are viewed with suspicion or outright hostility. Visitors are restricted to the courtyard and need special permits to enter the inner city. This rigid separation highlights Fallout's satirical take on privilege. Those within the walls live comfortably, while those outside struggle with scraps. Vault City is a portrait of inequality, not through chaos like the den, but through exclusion. The leadership of Vault City rests in the hands of the first citizen, a position elected by the city's citizens, but heavily influenced by tradition and bureaucracy. The first citizen seen in Fallout 2 is Lynette, a woman both admired and resented for her strictness. Lynette embodies the contradictions of Vault City. She values law, order, and the preservation of her people, but she dismisses outsiders with cruelty. Conversations with her often frustrate players, as she shows little gratitude for help and views the Chosen One as a potential threat. This design choice reinforces Fallout 2's commitment to satire. Those in power often appear cold, distant, and self-absorbed. Vault City's laws are as rigid as its walls. Alcohol is banned within the inner city, reflecting an obsession with control. Minor infractions can result in harsh punishments, and outsiders who break rules risk expulsion or imprisonment. Yet corruption lingers even here. Some citizens skirt rules when convenient, and smugglers thrive in the fringes. This mixture of rigid enforcement and quiet hypocrisy mirrors real-world societies, making Vault City one of Fallout 2's sharpest pieces of satire. The medical facilities of Vault City represent another form of privilege. Citizens have access to some of the best healthcare in the wasteland, with doctors trained in advanced techniques and technology unknown to outsiders. Outsiders, however, must often pay exorbitant fees or are denied treatment altogether. This division highlights Fallout's recurring theme of resource inequality. Healing in Vault City is not about need, but about belonging. This obscurity underscores the irony of a society with the tools to help many, but the will to help only a few. Vault City also ties directly into the larger political struggles of the wasteland. The new California Republic, rising in the South, sees Vault City as a potential ally or rival. The NCR values expansion, trade, and democracy, while Vault City clings to isolation and control. The Chosen One can influence these interactions, forging alliances or sparking tensions. This dynamic shows how Fallout 2 uses its settlements not just as quest hubs, but as pieces of a larger political puzzle, each reflecting different visions of rebuilding civilization. One of the most obscure details of Vault City is its reliance on slaves, despite its self-image as a moral and advanced society. Vault City operates a servant allocation center that purchases and distributes servants, a euphemism for slaves, exposing its hypocrisy despite its claims of morality, creating a contradiction that exposes the hypocrisy of its leaders. This revelation shocks many players, as Vault City's polished exterior hides the same cruelty found in dirtier settlements. It demonstrates Fallout 2's core satire. Progress is often built on exploitation. The player's interactions with Vault City can unfold in many directions. They might gain citizenship by performing tasks and earning favor, unlocking access to the inner city's technology. They might anger Lynette and find themselves barred from entering. They might help mediate disputes between Vault City and its neighbors, such as Gecko, a nearby town of ghouls. Each choice reveals more about the city's rigidity and its limits. Unlike the Den, where chaos ruled, Vault City tests the player's patience with order and bureaucracy. The nearby settlement of Gecko ties closely into Vault City's story. Gecko is powered by an aging nuclear reactor that leaks radiation, threatening the surrounding region. Vault City views Gecko as a danger and resents its ghoul inhabitants. The Chosen One can choose to repair the reactor, proving that cooperation between Vault City and Gecko is possible, or sabotage it, deepening hostility. This quest is one of Fallout 2's most memorable, as it highlights prejudice, technological fear, and the possibility of bridging divides. The obscurity here is that Vault City, with all its advanced knowledge, refuses to help Gecko out of pride and bias, relying instead on outsiders to decide its fate. Vault City's design reinforces its satire. Clean streets, orderly buildings, and uniformed guards make it look like a utopia compared to the wasteland outside. But the moment the Chosen One interacts with its people, the cracks show. Citizens are arrogant, bureaucracy is suffocating, and compassion is limited. The visual polish contrasts with the moral decay beneath, making Vault City one of Fallout 2's most memorable locations. Thematically, Vault City forces players to reflect on what civilization means. Is it about comfort, safety, and technology, or is it about fairness, compassion, and inclusion? Fallout 2 offers no easy answers. Instead, it presents Vault City as both a success story and a cautionary tale. It shows that even when humanity rises from the ashes, the structures it builds may still replicate the same injustices of the past. Leaving Vault City, players carry a deeper understanding of Fallout 2's world. They have seen survival in Arroyo, struggle in Klamath, cruelty in the Den, and now authoritarian order in Vault City. The obscurities of Vault City, Lynette's arrogance, the strict laws, the contradiction of slavery, the tension with Gecko, and the sterile beauty of its streets all contribute to Fallout 2's layered storytelling. It is a reminder that civilization is not just about what people build, but about how they treat those outside their walls. If Vault City represents rigid order, New Reno stands as its chaotic opposite. In Fallout 2, no settlement captures the extremes of decadence, corruption, and absurdity quite like New Reno. It is a city fueled by crime, drugs, gambling, and power struggles, with multiple families vying for control. For many players, stepping into New Reno feels like entering a different genre altogether, less post-apocalyptic survival and more dark gangster satire. The obscurity of New Reno lies in how over the top it is, and yet how deeply it shapes the wasteland around it. New Reno is controlled by four competing families: the Wrights, the Bishops, the Mordinos, and the Salvatores. Each has its own history, personality, and methods of control. The Wrights are obsessed with honor and tradition, though their piety masks brutality. The Bishops are cunning political operators, extending their influence far beyond Reno itself. The Mordinos thrive on drugs, manufacturing jet, and flooding the wasteland with addiction. The Salvatores wield advanced energy weapons, a sign of hidden dealings with shadowy forces like the Enclave. Together, these families form a fragile balance of power, with the Chosen One able to tip the scales in any direction. One of the most obscure and memorable elements of New Reno is its obsession with jet, a powerful chem first introduced in Fallout 2. Jet is produced using Brahmin dung and refined into a potent inhalant that provides bursts of energy and euphoria. It also causes severe addiction, making it one of the most dangerous substances in the wasteland. The Mordino family built its empire on jet, spreading it across communities and enslaving addicts to dependency. Helping or hindering the Mordinos places the Chosen One directly in the heart of one of Fallout's most iconic moral dilemmas. How much is survival worth when addiction drives profit? The city's casinos define its personality. Each family operates its own gambling hall, filled with neon lights, card tables, and dice games. These casinos are more than set dressing. Players can actually gamble, risking their caps and skills at blackjack or slot machines. The presence of functioning casinos in the wasteland is both absurd and fitting, showcasing humanity's enduring love of chance even after the end of the world. The humor lies in the detail. While towns like Arroyo scrape by with crops and hunting, Reno glows with lights powered by Vice. The Chosen One's journey through New Reno can unfold in countless directions. They might become a boxer, rising through the ranks of the local ring by defeating opponents one by one. They might star in an adult film, an infamous and tongue-in-cheek side quest that shocked players with its absurdity. They might be hired as a hitman, carrying out assassinations for one of the families, or they might work to unite the city under one banner, consolidating power and reshaping Reno's future. This sheer variety makes New Reno one of the most replayable hubs in Fallout 2. New Reno also ties into Fallout's larger political landscape. The Bishop family has ambitions that stretch into the new California Republic, attempting to manipulate politics and seize control of the growing nation. Depending on player choices, the Bishop's influence can even extend into Fallout New Vegas, making New Reno one of the few Fallout 2 locations that echoes into later games. This obscurity demonstrates how seemingly outrageous content in Fallout 2 still holds deep connections to the series' broader lore. The Salvatores add another layer of mystery. Their access to advanced laser weaponry hints at hidden connections with the Enclave, foreshadowing the larger enemy revealed later in the game. Unlike the flamboyant Mordinos or the calculating bishops, the Salvatores are quiet, ruthless, and intimidating. Their calm demeanor masks cruelty, and their weapons make them uniquely dangerous. This subtle detail links New Reno's chaos to the larger forces shaping the wasteland, reminding players that even in a city of vice, shadowy powers still lurk. Another obscure detail lies in how the Wright family's storyline unfolds. Unlike the other families, the Wrights are less interested in vice and more concerned with righteousness. Their quests often involve investigating corruption, rooting out dishonor, or seeking justice. Yet even here, hypocrisy exists. The Wrights are not innocent saviors, but another family seeking control, cloaking ambition in morality. Helping them may feel noble, but it still means strengthening one family at the expense of others. The sheer absurdity of New Reno makes it unforgettable. The adult film quest, the boxing ring, the over-the-top mob bosses, all of these feel like parodies of gangster films and pulp fiction, yet the writing also weaves in tragedy. Addicts lie dying in alleys, families are torn apart by drugs, and loyalty is constantly bought and sold. This blend of comedy and darkness defines Fallout 2's tone, and New Reno embodies it more than any other location. Companions also interact with New Reno's chaos. Cassidy, the grizzled caravan guard, often expresses disdain for the city's corruption, while Sulik's spiritual outlook contrasts sharply with Reno's decadence. Traveling with companions through Reno adds layers of commentary, reminding players that the city's absurdity is not normal, even in the wasteland. Another obscure and often overlooked aspect of New Reno is how it allows the Chosen One to father children. Depending on choices with certain NPCs, the Chosen One can leave behind descendants, which ties back into Fallout's theme of legacy. While this mechanic is rarely pursued by most players, it adds humor and depth, showing how even in the wasteland, lineage continues in unexpected ways. The music and art design of New Reno also stand out. Neon lights flicker against broken streets, swing and jazz-inspired tunes echo in casinos, and NPCs wear fedoras and suits, more reminiscent of the 1940s than the 22nd century. This intentional anachronism plays into Fallout's retrofuturism, blending atomic age technology with mid-20th century aesthetics. New Reno exaggerates this contrast to the extreme, making it feel both timeless and absurd. Leaving New Reno, players often feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of quests, choices, and possibilities. Unlike the rigid paths of Vault City or the moral traps of the Den, Reno offers endless directions, each filled with consequences. The obscurities of the city, Jet's dominance, the Bishop family's political schemes, the Salvatore's energy weapons, the Right's self-righteous morality, the boxing ring, and the infamous film industry all combine to make New Reno one of the most distinctive and memorable locations in Fallout 2. New Reno is not just a city of vice, it is a mirror held up to humanity, showing that even in nuclear ruin, greed, ambition, and absurdity endure. It is both satire and tragedy, both comedy and cruelty. In its neon glow, Fallout 2 shines brightest, reminding players that the wasteland is not just about survival, but about the strange, enduring quirks of human nature. After the neon chaos of New Reno, the Chosen One may wander eastward into one of Fallout 2's quieter but equally memorable locations, Modoc. Unlike Vault City's bureaucracy or the Den's lawlessness, Modoc is a humble farming community, small in scope but rich in obscure details and quirky quests. It captures a slice of post-apocalyptic rural life, where survival depends not on power or technology, but on soil, animals, and old-fashioned resilience. Modoc stands as both comic relief and a subtle satire of small-town dynamics. The town of Modoc is little more than a collection of shacks, a general store, a slaughterhouse, and a Brahmin ranch. Its leader, Joe, represents the heart of the settlement, pragmatic, cautious, and deeply suspicious of outsiders. He tasks the Chosen One with proving their trustworthiness before offering help, a recurring theme in Fallout 2's settlements. Modoc may look unassuming, but beneath its simple facade are quests that range from the bizarre to the touching. One of the most infamous quests in Modoc involves a missing family that once lived near the outskirts. Searching for them leads to the Ghost Farm, where staged corpses and the hidden slag community explain the family's disappearance. This moment shocks many first-time players, as it transforms a light-hearted farming town into a scene of horror. The juxtaposition of Modoc's innocent surface with such grotesque violence is one of Fallout 2's strengths, highlighting how danger lurks even in the most peaceful corners of the wasteland. Another iconic quest is the Stuck Brahmin event. A local event involves Bess, a weakened Brahmin near the slaughterhouse who can be healed or sold, reflecting the town's rural struggles. The Chosen One can attempt to rescue it, leading to absurd scenarios depending on how the problem is solved. This quest embodies Fallout 2's dark humor, turning a simple rural mishap into a ridiculous puzzle that players still joke about decades later. The obscurity lies in how the game developers intentionally embraced comedy in a world otherwise filled with tragedy. Modoc also introduces players to Rose, the owner of Rose's bed and breakfast. Rose is an eccentric character who runs a small inn and eatery, offering food made from strange ingredients that often disgust or amuse customers. Her cheerful personality and odd recipes bring levity to the town, yet her establishment also provides key services for travelers. Rose represents the quirkiness of Fallout 2, a reminder that survival is not just about weapons and water, but also about comfort and personality. The farming life of Modoc reflects broader themes of Fallout 2. The people here rely on Brahmin herds, crops, and bartering. Unlike the Den or New Reno, Modoc's economy is not driven by crime or decadence, but by honest labor. This sincerity makes the town feel refreshing, though it also reveals vulnerabilities. Raiders, famine, and environmental threats constantly endanger the community. Fallout 2 uses Modoc to remind players that survival is not glamorous, but difficult and often fragile. An obscure storyline in Modoc involves tensions between the townsfolk and a nearby group of ghouls. Misunderstandings and prejudice fuel conflict, and the Chosen One can act as a mediator. This subplot mirrors broader Fallout themes of fear and discrimination, showing how even small communities wrestle with the same issues as larger cities. Helping Modoc and the ghouls reconcile provides a satisfying resolution, but players can just as easily escalate violence, proving once again that Fallout 2 thrives on consequence. Another layer of Modoc's humor comes from its subtle satire of small-town gossip. NPCs comment on each other's habits, complain about petty issues, and spread rumors. This writing detail captures the claustrophobic nature of small communities, where everyone knows everyone else, and no secret stays hidden for long. The developers used Modoc as a stage for poking fun at the quirks of rural society, while still treating its people with a degree of respect. Perhaps the strangest quest in Modoc involves the Chosen One themselves. Depending on choices, the player can end up married to one of Joe's children after spending a night together. The next morning, the entire town pressures the Chosen One into a shotgun wedding, complete with vows and a ceremony. Refusing the marriage damages reputation, while accepting it ties the player into a domestic subplot. This quest is both absurd and charming, showing how Fallout 2 is unafraid to mix personal comedy with world building. Modoc's visual design reinforces its rural identity. Wooden fences, fields of crops, and weathered barns contrast sharply with the neon glow of New Reno or the sterile walls of Vault City. The soundtrack in Modoc is quieter, filled with subtle ambient tones that reflect isolation and simplicity. This difference in design helps the town feel unique, reminding players that the wasteland is not uniform but varied in culture and environment. Another obscure detail is how Modoc's reputation system ties into the larger game. Because it is such a small community, the player's actions here carry extra weight. Helping the town improves local reputation quickly, while mistakes damage it just as fast. This mechanic emphasizes how smaller communities are more sensitive to individual action. The Chosen One's presence in Modoc is not forgotten easily, reinforcing Fallout 2's theme that every choice matters. The farming struggles of Modoc also connect to the GECK questline. Arroyo seeks the GECK to restore fertility to its land, while Modoc shows what farming without advanced technology looks like. The people here work tirelessly but barely scrape by, suggesting how transformative the GECK could be. This contrast reinforces the stakes of the Chosen One's journey. Survival is not guaranteed, and even hardworking communities live on the edge of collapse. Companions add color to Modoc as well. Sulik's spiritual worldview contrasts with the grounded practicality of the farmers, while Cassidy often offers gruff commentary on the town's quirks. Their dialogue reminds players that Fallout is not just about towns, but about how companions interpret them, adding layers of perspective. By the time the Chosen One leaves Modoc, they carry a sense of the wasteland's diversity. They have seen tribal legacy in Arroyo, resource struggles in Klamath, cruelty in the Den, authoritarian order in Vault City, vice in New Reno, and now rural farming life in Modoc. Each settlement reveals a different face of humanity after the bombs. The obscurities of Modoc, the missing family devoured by plants, the stuck Brahmin quest, Rose's eccentric cooking, Joe's cautious leadership, and the shotgun wedding subplot all contribute to its unforgettable charm. Modoc may be small, but its impact is large. It reminds players that the wasteland is not only about grand politics or epic battles, but also about the daily struggles of ordinary people. In its simplicity, Modoc captures Fallout 2's heart, a game that balances darkness and humor, tragedy and absurdity, survival and community. After leaving Modoc's quiet farms, the Chosen One may wander toward Gecko, a settlement unlike any other in Fallout 2. Gecko is a town run almost entirely by ghouls, survivors of pre-war radiation who have endured centuries of decay yet still cling to life. The presence of Gecko highlights both Fallout's fascination with the consequences of nuclear war and its ongoing satire of prejudice, politics, and technology. More than just another stop on the map, Gecko represents one of the most morally nuanced locations in the game. Gecko is built around a pre-war nuclear power plant. This reactor still functions, though it leaks radiation into the surrounding environment. The ghouls, being resistant to radiation, can live comfortably within the contaminated zone, but their neighbors in Vault City view the plant as a dire threat. Vault City officials describe Gecko as a danger that must be eliminated, framing the ghouls as careless and destructive. In reality, the ghouls of Gecko are simply trying to survive, using the reactor as their lifeline. This tension sets the stage for one of Fallout 2's most important quests, where the Chosen One can choose to repair the reactor, sabotage it, or leave the problem unresolved. The town itself is a strange blend of decay and ingenuity. The ghouls have scavenged old-world equipment to keep the reactor functional, patching together broken systems with whatever scraps they can find. Buildings sag, streets are cracked, and yet life continues. The ghouls have bars, workshops, and even political leaders, showing that they are not mindless monsters, but a functioning community. This depiction of Gecko was groundbreaking in its time, presenting ghouls not just as enemies, but as sympathetic survivors. One of the most memorable characters in Gecko is Harold, a returning figure from Fallout 1. Harold is a ghoul with a tree-like mutation growing from his head, the result of exposure to the forced evolutionary virus. He serves as both comic relief and tragic reminder of humanity's persistence. Harold's rambling stories, filled with humor and sorrow, make him one of the most beloved characters in Fallout history. His presence in Gecko ties Fallout 2 to the broader series, anchoring the game in continuity while adding depth to the ghoul perspective. Another notable figure is Festus, a ghoul technician obsessed with the reactor's maintenance. Festus spends his days tinkering with control panels and monitoring radiation levels, convinced that the reactor can be stabilized with the right adjustments. He tasks the Chosen One with helping repair the system, a quest that requires technical skill or the use of a holodisk found in Vault City. This quest highlights Fallout 2's emphasis on player choice and problem solving. Brute force alone cannot resolve the tension between Gecko and its neighbors. The obscurity of the Gecko reactor quest lies in its moral implications. Repairing the reactor improves relations with Vault City, reduces radiation, and helps the ghouls thrive. Sabotaging it, however, leads to catastrophe, poisoning the land and dooming the ghouls. Some players even exploit the reactor to gain favor with Vault City's more ruthless officials, weaponizing technology to serve politics. This flexibility of choice reflects Fallout 2's broader theme. Survival is not about right or wrong, but about living with consequences. Gecko also explores the theme of prejudice. Vault City citizens openly despise the ghouls, calling them monsters and demanding their removal. Yet the ghouls themselves are portrayed as kind, quirky, and hardworking. This contrast exposes Vault City's hypocrisy, a supposedly advanced society that still clings to bigotry. The Chosen One can attempt to bridge this divide, encouraging cooperation between the two communities, or they can deepen the hatred by playing one side against the other. In this way, Gecko becomes one of Fallout 2's strongest examples of social commentary. The design of Gecko reinforces its atmosphere. The reactor dominates the skyline, glowing ominously against the cracked earth. Ambient sound effects hum with machinery, creating an unsettling but strangely comforting rhythm. Inside, terminals flash with error codes, and technicians mutter about failing systems. This environment feels alive, reminding players that technology is both a curse and a lifeline. Gecko's quests are filled with both humor and sincerity. Players can interact with ghouls who crack jokes about their decaying bodies, but they also hear stories of loss and resilience. Some ghouls remember the pre-war world, their memories fading but still sharp enough to share glimpses of the past. Others dream of a better future, hoping that cooperation with Vault City might bring stability. These small interactions humanize the ghouls, making them some of the most memorable NPCs in the game. An obscure detail in Gecko is how reputation mechanics interact with the town. Helping the ghouls increases local reputation, while siding with Vault City can turn them hostile. Because Fallout 2 tracks reputation in multiple locations, players often find themselves torn between pleasing one community and angering another. Gecko forces this tension to the forefront, showing how interconnected the wasteland's politics truly are. Another small but fascinating aspect of Gecko is its role in shaping later Fallout lore. The ghoul community, the reactor, and Harold's presence all foreshadow themes that reappear in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Bethesda's later entries continued exploring ghouls as sympathetic figures, building on the foundation established here. In this sense, Gecko is not just an isolated town, but a pivotal point in the evolution of the Fallout universe. The reactor itself becomes a metaphor for the wasteland. It is broken but functional, dangerous but necessary. It requires constant attention, adaptation, and compromise. Just as the ghouls patch together its systems, humanity patches together its survival. Fallout 2 uses the reactor as more than a quest objective. It becomes a symbol of persistence in a ruined world. By the time the Chosen One leaves Gecko, players have experienced one of the richest moral dilemmas in Fallout 2. They have seen prejudice, resilience, and the consequences of technology. The obscurities of Gecko Herald's rambling wisdom, Festus's reactor obsession, Vault City's hypocrisy, the reputation system, and the haunting glow of the reactor itself make it one of the most impactful locations in the game. Gecko proves that Fallout 2 is not just about wandering the wasteland, but about grappling with questions of morality, politics, and survival. It shows that even the most overlooked communities can shape the future, and that prejudice can blind even the most advanced societies. In the end, Gecko is both a cautionary tale and a celebration of persistence, reminding players that survival is as much about cooperation as it is about strength. Tucked into the northern wasteland of Fallout 2 lies Redding, a mining town that at first glance seems small and unimportant, but in reality represents one of the most critical hubs of power in the entire game. Where Arroyo was tribal, Klamath was rustic, the Den was lawless, Vault City was rigid, New Reno was decadent, and Gecko was radioactive. Redding stands as a story of resource exploitation, addiction, and political influence. Beneath its dust and grime, Redding hides truths about how survival in the wasteland often depends less on ideals and more on who controls the ground beneath their feet. Redding is a mining settlement built around gold. Long after the bombs fell, the promise of precious metals still drives human ambition. Its mines stretch beneath the earth, filled with both opportunity and danger. Prospectors dig deep into tunnels, risking their lives to pull ore from the rock. These mines serve as both the backbone of the economy and a symbol of greed. Fallout 2 uses Redding to remind players that even in a nuclear wasteland, humanity clings to old obsessions. Gold may have lost much of its pre-war value, but in a barter-based economy, it still carries weight as a resource for trade and influence. The town itself is divided between miners, merchants, and factions vying for control. At the surface level, Redding seems like just another frontier town, but the deeper the player looks, the clearer the tensions become. The most pressing issue in Redding is jet addiction. The powerful chem manufactured by New Reno's Mordino family has spread like wildfire through the town. Miners, exhausted from long shifts underground, inhale jet to stay awake and work longer hours. At first, this seems like an advantage, but the cost quickly becomes apparent. Addiction runs rampant, miners collapse, and productivity falters. Jet has turned Redding from a town of opportunity into a place of desperation. The Mordino family's influence over Redding through Jet demonstrates Fallout 2's layered storytelling. While New Reno thrives on decadence, its reach extends far beyond its neon lights. By controlling the jet supply, the Mordinos tighten their grip on communities like Redding, enslaving them economically and chemically. Helping or hindering this trade becomes one of the Chosen One's choices, highlighting how even faraway power struggles ripple through the wasteland. The obscurity of Redding lies in how quietly it becomes a battleground for larger factions, with its citizens trapped in the middle. Another faction with eyes on Redding is the New California Republic. Still growing during the events of Fallout 2, the NCR seeks to expand its influence northward. Redding's gold makes it a prime target, as it can fuel the NCR's economy and cement its authority. Vault City also watches Redding closely, seeing it as a potential trade partner or rival. Even New Reno's other families take interest, competing with the Mordinos for control of the mines. This web of competing interests makes Redding one of the most politically significant towns in Fallout 2. Despite its modest size, the mines themselves hold dangers beyond exhaustion and collapse. Mutated creatures lurk in the tunnels, forcing miners and adventurers alike to arm themselves before descending. For the Chosen One, the mines provide opportunities to test combat skill, scavenge resources, and uncover hidden details. The design of these dungeons reinforces Fallout 2's theme of risk and reward. The deeper one goes, the greater the potential gain, but the greater the danger. The mines are not just gameplay locations, but narrative spaces, symbolizing how greed drives people into peril. Redding's quests reflect the town's fragility. The Chosen One may be asked to resolve disputes between miners and merchants, investigate jet distribution, or even decide which faction ultimately gains control of the town. These choices ripple outward, altering how the NCR, Vault City, and New Reno perceive the player. In this way, Redding acts as a pivot point in Fallout 2's larger political map. It shows that even small towns hold immense power when their resources are coveted. One obscure detail in Redding involves its medical situation. The local doctor struggles to treat the wave of jet addicts overwhelming the town. His clinic is underfunded, his supplies scarce, and his patients often unwilling to quit their habits. This subplot highlights Fallout 2's focus on addiction as a serious theme, not just a gameplay mechanic. Jet addiction lowers stats, ruins characters' efficiency, and reflects how the wasteland offers quick fixes that come at devastating costs. Through Redding, the game delivers one of its strongest commentaries on substance abuse. Another fascinating detail lies in how Redding can be claimed by different factions depending on the player's actions. If the NCR is strengthened, it eventually absorbs the town, bringing order but also bureaucracy. If Vault City gains influence, it extends its authoritarian control northward. If New Reno dominates, Redding falls further into decadence and addiction. Each outcome paints a different future for the town, reminding players that their decisions shape not only individual lives, but the fate of entire communities. The design of Redding reinforces its themes. Dusty streets, weary miners, and dimly lit saloons create an atmosphere of exhaustion. Unlike the glitz of New Reno or the polish of Vault City, Redding feels worn down, as if its very soil has been drained by those who covet it. The soundtrack underscores this, with low, melancholy tones that make the town feel both alive and fading at once. This mood lingers, making Redding a location that players may not love but cannot forget. Companions react to Redding's struggles in ways that add depth to the story. Cassidy's gruff personality often resonates with the hard-working miners, while Sulik may lament the spiritual cost of addiction and exploitation. These interactions remind players that Fallout is not just about places, but about how those places are interpreted by those who travel with you. Redding also serves as a lesson in the cyclical nature of exploitation. In the old world, miners toiled for corporations chasing profit. In the wasteland, miners toil for survival while factions chase influence. The details may have changed, but the power dynamics remain eerily familiar. Fallout 2 uses Redding to make a satirical point. Humanity does not easily abandon its old habits, even after nuclear fire. By the time the Chosen One leaves Redding, they have witnessed how addiction, greed, and politics intertwine. They have seen how a small town can become the fulcrum of regional power struggles. The obscurities of Redding the Jet epidemic, the Mordinos' influence, the NCR's ambitions, Vault City's watchful eye, the dangers of the mines, and the weary faces of miners make it one of Fallout 2's most quietly significant locations. Redding reminds players that not all battles are fought with guns or mutants. Some are fought with contracts, chems, and influence. It is a place where survival is bought and sold, where the price of gold is measured not just in caps, but in lives. In the end, Redding shows that the wasteland's greatest dangers are not always monsters or radiation, but the same human flaws that existed long before the bombs. Not far from Redding lies another mining community, but this one could not be more different in character. Broken Hills is one of Fallout 2's most fascinating and obscure locations because it represents a rare attempt at unity in the wasteland. Founded by Marcus, a super mutant who once fought alongside the Vault Dweller in Fallout 1, Broken Hills is a town where mutants, ghouls, and humans attempt to live together in peace. In a game often defined by cruelty, exploitation, and conflict, Broken Hills stands out as both a hopeful experiment and a fragile dream. The town itself is built around a uranium mine. This resource provides power and trade opportunities, but also creates risk. Uranium is dangerous to handle, and the mine itself becomes a focal point for quests and conflicts. Just like Redding, Broken Hills is tied to resources, but the real story here is not the mine. It is the community above it, where people of different species try to create a new kind of society. Marcus, The town's leader embodies the hope of Broken Hills. A massive super mutant with a calm voice and a sense of humor, Marcus rejects the violence and domination of the Master's army from Fallout 1. Instead, he preaches cooperation and tolerance, believing that mutants, humans, and ghouls can live together. His presence ties Fallout 2 directly back to its predecessor, reminding players that the world has continuity and that choices and battles from the past echo forward. Marcus is one of the most memorable NPCs in Fallout history, loved for his wisdom and his dry wit. The obscurity of Broken Hills lies in how it handles prejudice. Not everyone in town embraces Marcus's dream. Some humans resent living alongside mutants, viewing them as dangerous and unnatural. Some mutants grow frustrated with humans, feeling that they are weak and untrustworthy. Even among ghouls, there are disagreements about their place in society. The Chosen One becomes involved in mediating these tensions, deciding whether to foster unity or allow prejudice to tear the town apart. Fallout 2 uses Broken Hills as a stage to explore themes of racism, tolerance, and coexistence in a way that few games of its time dared. One of the most significant quests in Broken Hills involves uncovering a conspiracy by racist agitators. Certain humans in the town spread propaganda, attempting to incite hatred against mutants and ghouls. The Chosen One can choose to expose these conspirators, preserve the fragile peace, or even side with them, fueling conflict. This storyline forces players to confront prejudice directly, making their decisions feel heavy with consequence. The choice to preserve unity or encourage division is one of Fallout 2's most thematically powerful moments. Another quest involves repairing the town's air purifier, which keeps radiation levels safe for humans and ghouls. Without it, Broken Hills becomes dangerous for non-mutants, threatening the dream of unity. Fixing the purifier requires technical skill, reinforcing Fallout 2's emphasis on problem-solving beyond combat. The symbolism of the purifier is clear. Just as the machine keeps the community breathable, tolerance keeps it livable. Neglecting either leads to collapse. Companions play a key role in Broken Hills as well. Marcus himself can become a companion if the player earns his trust. Recruiting him adds immense firepower to the party, as Marcus wields heavy weapons and has the durability of a super mutant. But more than his combat ability, Marcus brings personality. His dialogue reflects his philosophy of cooperation, and his dry humor lightens the mood even in bleak moments. Traveling with Marcus ties the Chosen One directly into Fallout's legacy, creating a sense of connection across generations. The uranium mine also provides opportunities for exploration and conflict. Players may be asked to rescue trapped miners, clear out creatures, or mediate disputes between workers. These quests highlight the constant balance between survival and danger in the wasteland. The mine is both the lifeblood of Broken Hills and a potential source of disaster, reflecting how resources often define communities. One obscure but memorable detail in Broken Hills is its radio station. The town has a simple broadcasting system that plays music and announcements, creating a sense of community cohesion. This feature adds charm to the town, reinforcing the idea that Broken Hills is not just surviving, but attempting to build culture. Small details like this help the settlement feel alive and distinct. The humor of Fallout 2 also finds its place in Broken Hills. NPCs deliver witty one-liners, odd characters wander the streets, and Marcus himself cracks jokes about his size and past. These touches of comedy prevent the town from feeling overly serious, maintaining Fallout's trademark balance of satire and sincerity. At the same time, the town's fragility is always apparent. If the Chosen One neglects the Purifier, sides with agitators, or simply abandons Broken Hills, the community may fail. Mutants and humans may turn on one another, and the dream of unity may collapse into violence. Fallout 2 does not guarantee happy endings, reminding players that tolerance requires constant effort. The obscurity of Broken Hills is that it is both inspiring and precarious, a symbol of what could be and what is always at risk. Another subtle but important aspect of Broken Hills is how it connects to Fallout's broader lore. The presence of Marcus, the history of the super mutants, and the inclusion of ghouls all reinforce Fallout's themes of mutation and survival. Broken Hills is not just a town, but a microcosm of the wasteland, where different groups struggle to coexist in the shadow of the old world. The visual design of Broken Hills reinforces this theme. The town looks patched together, with mutant-sized buildings alongside human dwellings, creating a mismatched but functional community. The mine's machinery hums in the background, and the barren landscape contrasts with the warmth of the people trying to make it work. The soundtrack here feels steady and calm, reflecting Marcus's leadership and the fragile peace. Leaving Broken Hills, players carry a sense of both hope and unease. They have seen a community that dares to imagine something better, but they also know how easily it can unravel. The obscurities of Broken Hills, Marcus's leadership, the conspiracy of agitators, the Purifier's symbolism, the radio broadcasts, and the uranium mine all combine to make it one of the most thematically rich locations in Fallout 2. Broken Hills reminds players that survival is not just about fighting monsters or hoarding resources. It is about building trust, confronting prejudice, and imagining a future where differences do not lead to division. Whether that dream succeeds or fails depends on the player, making Broken Hills one of the most poignant and enduring chapters of Fallout 2. Among the most advanced and unusual locations in Fallout 2 is San Francisco, a city that survived nuclear fire in ways unlike any other settlement. While towns like Redding and Modoc cling to old tools and farming, and New Reno thrives on vice, San Francisco stands as a hub of technology, ideology, and cultural collision. Its obscurity lies in how far removed it feels from the rest of the wasteland, both geographically and thematically. Here, players encounter the Shi, the Hubologists, and remnants of pre-war military power, all fighting to shape what remains of civilization. San Francisco in Fallout 2 is divided into distinct factions. The most important are the Shi, descendants of Chinese submariners whose vessel was stranded in the bay during the Great War. Over generations, these survivors built a thriving society, mixing Chinese cultural traditions with advanced science and engineering. Their technology surpasses almost every other group in Fallout 2, rivaled only by the Enclave. The Shi operate from the remains of their submarine and its research facilities, creating energy weapons, power armor, and even experiments with genetically modified plants. Their presence in San Francisco highlights Fallout's theme of survival through adaptation, as a single-stranded crew evolves into a powerful faction shaping the city's future. The Shi's leader, Emperor, is one of Fallout 2's most obscure details. Despite the title, the Emperor is not a human ruler, but a supercomputer. This machine processes data, analyzes threats, and issues guidance, essentially acting as the Shi's brain. Citizens treat the Emperor with reverence, blending technology with a quasi-religious respect. Conversations with the Emperor reveal both humor and insight, as it answers questions with machine-like precision. The presence of this computer ruler satirizes humanity's reliance on technology, showing how even post-apocalyptic societies may worship the machines that guide them. The Hubologists provide San Francisco with another layer of satire. They are a parody of cults and pseudo-religious movements modeled after real-world organizations that blend science fiction and spirituality. The Hubologists believe in cosmic enlightenment, promising to cleanse followers of impurities through rituals and pseudo-scientific treatments. Their base in San Francisco recruits wanderers, demanding loyalty and resources in exchange for promised transcendence. For players, the Hubologists represent one of Fallout 2's funniest and most biting pieces of satire, skewering humanity's willingness to believe in charismatic leaders and vague promises. Players can interact with both the She and the Hubologists, choosing to aid or undermine their goals. The She may ask for assistance with technology or diplomacy, while the Hubologists may demand help in spreading their influence. These quests highlight Fallout 2's commitment to choice and consequence, as siding with one faction often means opposing another. The tension between science and faith, technology and belief, becomes the central theme of San Francisco's story. San Francisco also ties into Fallout 2's broader plot through its connections to the Enclave. Advanced technology, remnants of military hardware, and whispers of the Enclave's power all converge here. The Salvatories of New Reno are hinted to have connections to San Francisco through energy weapon supplies, and the She's experiments foreshadow the conflicts that will define the endgame. In this way, San Francisco acts as both a distinct hub and a narrative bridge to Fallout 2's climax. One of the most obscure and humorous quests in San Francisco involves martial arts. Players can enter the Dragon's fighting ring, testing their skills against martial artists in hand-to-hand combat. This quirky quest feels almost out of place in Fallout, yet it adds charm and variety. Winning the tournament earns respect and rewards, but the real value lies in the absurdity of a kung fu storyline appearing in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Fallout 2 embraces this kind of tonal whiplash, using humor to keep even the darkest worlds unpredictable. San Francisco's docks also hold significance. Ships lie rusting along the waterfront, and remnants of trade hint at the city's potential as a hub of commerce. The She's submarine, partially buried in the bay, is both a symbol of their origins and a reminder of the war that stranded them. The docks feel alive with history, blending the old world with the new. Another obscure detail lies in how San Francisco's factions view the player. The She respect technical knowledge and diplomacy, rewarding players who demonstrate intelligence and problem-solving. The Hubologists, by contrast, demand faith and loyalty, rewarding compliance and charisma. This contrast reinforces Fallout 2's design philosophy. Success can come through many paths, but each carries consequences. The visual design of San Francisco sets it apart from other towns. While places like Redding or Modoc look rustic and worn, San Francisco gleams with neon signs, orderly buildings, and advanced equipment. The She's laboratories hum with machinery, while the Hubologist's base glows with artificial light. This sharp contrast makes San Francisco feel futuristic compared to the rest of the wasteland, almost as if it belongs to a different era. The soundtrack reinforces this, layering eerie tones with hints of energy and activity. Companions react to San Francisco in ways that highlight its uniqueness. Marcus, the super mutant, may comment on the absurdity of cults like the Hubologists, while Cassidy often expresses skepticism about both factions. Sulik's spiritual worldview contrasts with the hubologist's pseudoscience, adding layers of interpretation to the city's satire. These companion perspectives remind players that Fallout is as much about how places are seen as about the places themselves. San Francisco also contains key items and opportunities tied to the main quest. High-level weapons, rare armor, and critical intelligence about the Enclave can all be found here. For many players, San Francisco becomes a turning point where the scale of the story expands from regional struggles to global threats. The city's obscurities, the Emperor's supercomputer, the martial arts tournament, the Hubologist cult, and the Shi's advanced research all contribute to its lasting impact. By the time the Chosen One leaves San Francisco, they carry a sense of how diverse the wasteland can be. They have seen tribal survival, rural farms, lawless towns, authoritarian enclaves, decadent cities, and now a futuristic hub shaped by both science and faith. San Francisco proves that Fallout 2 is not confined to one tone or one vision. It is a tapestry of absurdity and seriousness, humor and tragedy, hope and danger. San Francisco stands as a reminder that the future of the wasteland will be shaped not only by strength, but by ideas. Whether through the Shi's devotion to science, the Hubologist's faith in cosmic cleansing, or the Enclave's shadowy power, humanity's destiny is once again at a crossroads. The Chosen One's role in this city of contradictions highlights Fallout 2's brilliance. It allows players to decide which vision of the future will prevail. As the Chosen One's journey progresses, whispers of a hidden enemy begin to emerge. These rumors eventually solidify into the revelation of the Enclave, one of Fallout's most enduring factions and one of Fallout 2's most important narrative pillars. The Enclave represents the shadow of the old world, the remnants of the United States government clinging to power long after the bombs fell. Their presence in Fallout 2 is both obscure and monumental, shaping the endgame and leaving a legacy that continues across the entire series. The Enclave operates from an oil rig far out at sea, a facility that survived nuclear fire thanks to its remote location and military fortifications. This base houses some of the most advanced technology in the Fallout universe: experimental weapons, laboratories, and the fearsome power armor that would later become iconic. The oil rig feels alien compared to the wasteland, a sterile environment of metal corridors and humming machinery. It represents what happens when a fragment of the pre-war world survives intact, untouched by the destruction that reshaped the rest of humanity. At its core, the Enclave believes it is the rightful continuation of the United States. Its leaders claim legitimacy through survival, seeing themselves as the inheritors of government, military, and industry. They view wasteland survivors, humans mutated by radiation, ghouls, and supermutants, as impure, unworthy of the future. This ideology drives their actions in Fallout 2 as they attempt to cleanse the continent of all who do not fit their narrow definition of purity. The Enclave's presence is foreshadowed throughout the game. In New Reno, the Salvatores' access to advanced energy weapons hints at Enclave dealings. In Gecko, scattered logs and technology suggest hidden hands at work. On the coasts near San Francisco, whispers of military patrols and sightings of strange armor deepen the mystery. This gradual buildup makes the eventual confrontation with the Enclave all the more impactful as players realize the scope of the threat they face. One of the most obscure details about the Enclave in Fallout 2 is their reliance on advanced versions of power armor. This armor, sleeker and more intimidating than the Brotherhood's designs, became iconic after the game's release. For many fans, the image of Enclave soldiers in advanced power armor defines the faction. The technology gap between them and Wasteland survivors underscores Fallout's central theme. The line between survival and domination often depends on access to machines. The Enclave's leader in Fallout 2 is President Dick Richardson, a name dripping with satire. Richardson embodies the arrogance and cruelty of the Enclave. He speaks in lofty rhetoric about purity, destiny, and the future, but his plans are genocidal. He intends to release a modified strain of the forced evolutionary virus, designed not to create mutants, but to kill all mutated life. This includes ghouls, super mutants, and even most humans who have been exposed to radiation. In effect, Richardson plans to wipe out nearly the entire population of the wasteland, leaving only the Enclave to inherit the Earth. This plan reveals the Enclave's hypocrisy. While they claim to represent the future of humanity, their vision depends on mass extermination. They see themselves as saviors, but act as tyrants, clinging to power through brutality. Fallout 2 presents this ideology as both terrifying and absurd, satirizing the dangers of authoritarianism and purity myths. The oil rig itself is filled with details that reinforce the Enclave's character. Terminals display logs of research, political speeches, and propaganda. Soldiers march in precise order, reflecting military discipline. Scientists conduct experiments without compassion, focusing on results rather than ethics. The sterile environment feels suffocating, a stark contrast to the chaotic but alive wasteland. In many ways, the oil rig feels like a tomb, a place where humanity's old world values remain frozen in time. One of the most memorable encounters on the oil rig involves Frank Horrigan, an Enclave super soldier and one of Fallout's most infamous villains. Horrigan is a towering figure, mutated by the forced evolutionary virus and enhanced with cybernetics. He serves as the Enclave's ultimate enforcer, a living weapon who embodies their obsession with power at any cost. Fighting Horrigan is the climax of Fallout 2, a battle that tests the player's preparation, companions, and strategy. His presence is both terrifying and absurd, with his sheer size making him feel more like a monster than a man. Horrigan represents the Enclave's willingness to sacrifice humanity in pursuit of domination. Thematically, the Enclave serves as Fallout 2's ultimate satire of government and authority. While towns like Vault City parody bureaucracy and New Reno parodies vice, the Enclave parodies authoritarian nationalism. Their obsession with purity mirrors real-world ideologies that use fear and exclusion to justify violence. Fallout 2 uses the Enclave to remind players that the greatest threats are not always mutants or radiation, but the remnants of human arrogance. The battle against the Enclave on the oil rig can unfold in multiple ways. Players may storm the base with weapons, infiltrate it using stealth, or even rally prisoners to rise against their captors. This flexibility reinforces Fallout 2's emphasis on player choice. The ending varies depending on how the Chosen One handles the confrontation, with different communities across the wasteland experiencing different fates. The Enclave's defeat, however, is always a turning point, reshaping the balance of power in the Fallout universe. Another obscure detail lies in how the Enclave connects to Fallout's future. Their defeat in Fallout 2 is not their end. Fallout 3 revives them as the main antagonist, showing how fragments of their ideology and technology survived. Fallout New Vegas references their scattered remnants, and Fallout 76 includes hints of their influence. In this way, the Enclave became one of Fallout's most iconic factions, with roots stretching back to Fallout 2's oil rig. Companions also react to the Enclave in ways that deepen the story. Marcus may see them as the antithesis of his dream of unity, while Cassidy's disdain for authority makes him openly hostile to their rhetoric. These reactions remind players that the Enclave is not just another faction, but a threat that resonates personally with those who have struggled to survive. Leaving the oil rig, players carry the weight of victory, but also the knowledge of what the Enclave represents. Their obscurity's advanced power armor, Richardson's genocidal plans, Horrigan's monstrous presence, the sterile environment of the rig, and their obsession with purity all make them one of Fallout 2's most unforgettable elements. The Enclave is more than a villain. It is a mirror held up to humanity, showing what happens when survival is twisted into domination and ideology replaces compassion. Fallout 2 ensures that their shadow looms large, not only over its own story, but over the series that follows. Scattered across Fallout 2's wasteland are vaults left behind by Vault Tech, each one a fragment of pre-war, paranoia, and ambition. While Vault 13 and Vault 15 are the most famous from Fallout 1, Fallout 2 expands the scope by introducing new vaults filled with obscure experiments and haunting details. These hidden shelters remind players that the bombs were only the beginning. The real horror lay in the experiments carried out under the guise of protection. The obscurity of these vaults lies in their variety, as each tells a different story about survival, deception, and human folly. One of the first vaults encountered in Fallout 2 is Vault 15, located south of Vault City. This vault holds significance because it connects directly to Fallout 1's history. In the original game, Vault 15 was known as the birthplace of several major factions, including the Khans and the Jackals. By the time of Fallout 2, the vault has long since been abandoned, its inhabitants scattered. Exploring its ruined halls reveals the remnants of its story, a place once filled with life, but now reduced to rubble. The obscurity of Vault 15 lies not in what it contains, but in what it represents, a reminder that vaults do not always survive as intended. More infamous is Vault 12, located beneath the city of Necropolis in Fallout 1, but referenced again in Fallout 2. Vault 12's experiment forced its door to remain open, exposing inhabitants to radiation. This cruel design created an entire population of ghouls, proving that Vault Tech's promise of safety was often a lie. In Fallout 2, players hear echoes of Vault 12 through ghoul communities like Gecko, tying the legacy of experiments into the broader wasteland. Though the player does not re-enter Necropolis in Fallout 2, its presence lingers, shaping the world's understanding of ghouls. Vault 13 also returns in Fallout 2, serving as a major plot point in the Chosen One's journey. By the time of the sequel, the Vault Dweller's old home has become entangled in the Enclave's schemes. The Vault is no longer just a memory, but a battleground for the future. The symbolism of Vault 13 carries immense weight as it connects the Chosen One to their ancestors' legacy. Exploring its halls feels like walking through history, with every corridor echoing the first game's story. Perhaps the strangest vault in Fallout 2 is Vault 8, which eventually became Vault City. Unlike other vaults, Vault 8 was not designed to fail through sinister experimentation. Instead, it was outfitted with advanced technology and abundant resources, making it one of the most successful vaults. Its survival created the authoritarian society a vault city where privilege and superiority replaced compassion. Vault 8's story shows how even a successful vault can lead to dystopia, proving that safety and abundance do not guarantee justice. Another obscure vault is Vault 13's counterpart in the Enclave's plans. Here, the Enclave sought to manipulate and control vault populations, seeing them as pure human stock, free from mutation. This idea ties into the Enclave's obsession with genetic purity, reinforcing the dark truth that vaults were never intended as sanctuaries. Instead, they were laboratories for twisted experiments and future control. Fallout 2 weaves these vaults into its larger narrative, making the vault system itself one of the series' most enduring critiques of authority and science gone wrong. One of the more overlooked vault references in Fallout 2 involves Vault 29. Though not directly accessible, it is mentioned in dialogue and lore as a vault populated entirely by children, overseen by an artificial intelligence. The implication is both absurd and chilling, as it suggests children raised in isolation without adults would be manipulated into unknown outcomes. This reference reflects Fallout's satirical edge, using vaults to push social experiments to their extremes. Vault 15 also ties into the New California Republic, as survivors from its population helped establish Shady Sands, the NCR's capital. This connection reinforces how vaults serve as seeds of civilization, even when their experiments fail. Fallout 2 subtly reminds players that nearly every major faction in the wasteland can trace its origins back to a vault, proving Vault Tech's shadow stretches across generations. The design of vaults in Fallout 2 reinforces their haunting atmosphere. Long corridors, flickering lights, and echoing footsteps make exploration feel eerie, as if the player is intruding on the ghosts of the past. Terminals provide fragmented records of life before collapse, often revealing the cruelty of experiments only after it is too late. This combination of environmental storytelling and player discovery makes vaults some of the most memorable locations in the game. Companions also react to vaults in ways that deepen their meaning. Cassidy often grumbles about the cold sterility of vault halls, while Sulik may view them as unnatural prisons. Marcus, having seen humanity's mistakes firsthand, may comment on the arrogance of those who thought vaults could control fate. These reactions remind players that vaults are not just dungeons to explore, but symbols of human folly, judged through the eyes of those who survived outside them. The obscurity of Fallout 2's vaults lies in how varied their outcomes are. Vault 13 became legend, Vault 15 collapsed into chaos, Vault 8 created authoritarianism, Vault 12 created ghouls, and Vault 29 existed only as rumor. Together, they paint a picture of a company more interested in data than human lives. Vault Tech promised survival, but delivered suffering, and Fallout 2 ensures players never forget that truth. By the time the Chosen One leaves these vaults behind, the lesson is clear. Safety was never the goal. Experimentation was the true purpose, and the vaults are monuments to humanity's arrogance. The obscurities of Fallout 2's vaults, the legacy of Vault 15, the tragedy of Vault 12, the authoritarianism of Vault 8, the myth of Vault 29, and the history of Vault 13 make them some of the game's most chilling elements. The vaults are not just ruins, they are warnings echoing across generations. They remind players that the line between protection and control is thin, and that humanity's search for survival can just as easily become its downfall. In Fallout 2, the vaults stand as both relics of the past and harbingers of the future, ensuring that the shadow of Vault Tech will never fade. While the Enclave's oil rig serves as their stronghold, Navarro functions as their forward operating base within the mainland wasteland. Located in Northern California, this base is one of the most dangerous and obscure places the Chosen One can encounter in Fallout 2. It is a hub of military strength, technology, and secrecy, and it represents how the Enclave extends its reach far beyond the ocean. Unlike the oil rig, Navarro is not isolated. It exists within the same ground the Chosen One walks, making its threat immediate and personal. Navarro is disguised as a pre-war military facility, with surface-level structures and hangars hiding the vast underground operations below. Above ground, the base looks almost deserted, with guards in uniform maintaining appearances. But beneath the surface lies a maze of corridors, laboratories, and barracks filled with soldiers clad in advanced power armor. This stark difference between surface and underground reflects the Enclave's strategy as a whole, hiding in plain sight, pretending to be dormant while preparing for domination. The most striking feature of Navarro is its arsenal. The Enclave stores advanced energy weapons, prototype equipment, and vehicles within the base. Patrols emerge from Navarro wearing power armor more advanced than anything the Brotherhood of Steel possesses at this point. For many players, Navarro is the first time they witness the sheer technological superiority of the Enclave firsthand. It becomes clear that this is not just another raider camp or gang hideout. This is a disciplined, organized force with the ability to reshape the wasteland. Navarro is also home to one of Fallout 2's most memorable NPCs, the vertibird technician named Raul. He provides comic relief with his eccentric personality and dialogue, standing out amid the militaristic atmosphere. Raul's presence highlights Fallout's balance of humor and seriousness, reminding players that even in the heart of the enemy, individuals with quirks and charm exist. Vertibirds themselves are an important piece of Fallout's lore introduced in Navarro. These pre-war aircraft represent the Enclave's mobility and dominance, giving them an edge over wasteland factions that rely on caravans and foot soldiers. The sight of a vertibird is both awe-inspiring and terrifying, as it symbolizes the Enclave's ability to project power wherever they choose. Navarro's hangars reveal these machines in operation, underscoring how advanced the Enclave remains compared to the rest of humanity. The Chosen One's interaction with Navarro can unfold in multiple ways. Some players infiltrate the base through stealth or disguises, posing as recruits or technicians. Others assault it head-on, battling waves of soldiers in power armor. Still others may choose to ally with certain NPCs within Navarro, leveraging relationships to gain access to equipment or information. This flexibility reflects Fallout 2's design philosophy, where creativity and player choice define outcomes. Navarro is also home to Dr. Schreber, one of the Enclave's scientists. His presence underscores the Enclave's obsession with experimentation. Logs and terminals within Navarro reveal chilling details about the forced evolutionary virus, radiation studies, and other projects. These glimpses of research remind players that the Enclave is not just a military power, but a scientific one capable of creating horrors like Frank Horrigan. Navarro thus becomes both a battlefield and a laboratory, blending brute force with intellectual cruelty. Companions respond strongly to Navarro. Cassidy's disdain for authority makes him bristle against the Enclave's soldiers, while Marcus may view them as a dangerous reminder of authoritarian armies from the past. Sulik's spiritual outlook contrasts with Navarro's sterile efficiency, and even Vic, the merchant-turned-companion, may react with awe at the advanced technology. These interactions reinforce the player's own sense of unease, as companions remind them that Navarro is not just another stop, but a turning point in the journey. The design of Navarro emphasizes secrecy and discipline. Above ground, the facility appears quiet, almost empty. Below ground, however, the hum of machinery, the march of soldiers, and the gleam of technology reveal the truth. This duality mirrors the Enclave's nature as a whole hiding cruelty beneath a veneer of order. The soundtrack here adds to the tension, blending ambient industrial tones with an undercurrent of menace. One obscure but fascinating aspect of Navarro is how it ties into Fallout 2's endings. Depending on the player's actions, Navarro can be destroyed, abandoned, or remain a lurking threat. Its fate shapes the broader world, determining whether the Enclave's reach continues after the Chosen One's journey. This flexibility adds replay value, as different outcomes provide new perspectives on the Enclave's power. Navarro also connects to Fallout's future. In Fallout New Vegas, scattered remnants of Navarro's forces appear in the Mojave, suggesting that the base's legacy persisted even after its fall. This continuity reinforces Navarro's significance, showing how a single location can ripple across multiple games. For fans, Navarro remains a symbol of the Enclave's reach and a reminder of their enduring threat. The obscurity of Navarro lies in its contradictions. It is both a fortress and a facade, both a hub of cruelty and a place where individuals like Raul provide levity. It represents both the Enclave's dominance and its vulnerability, as clever players can infiltrate and subvert it. It is terrifying, yet strangely fascinating, a place that players remember long after leaving its halls. By the time the Chosen One leaves Navarro, they carry a deeper understanding of the Enclave. They have seen its soldiers, its scientists, its vertibirds, and its laboratories. They have glimpsed its arrogance and its cruelty, but also its cracks and contradictions. The obscurities of Navarro power armor training, Raul's eccentricity, Schreiber's experiments, the dual design of the facility, and its role in Fallout's future make it one of Fallout 2's most memorable locations. Navarro reminds players that the Wasteland's greatest dangers are not always raiders or mutants, but organized remnants of the old world, armed with technology and ideology. It is a place where the future of humanity is debated not through philosophy, but through weapons and experiments. In Fallout 2, Navarro stands as both a warning and a challenge, daring the player to face the full weight of the Enclave's power. Among all the factions in Fallout 2, few carry as much long-term weight as the New California Republic. While many towns and groups feel isolated to the events of Fallout 2, the NCR becomes one of the most influential forces in the entire Fallout series. Its presence in Fallout 2 is both understated and deeply significant, as it shows the early stages of a government attempting to rebuild civilization from the ashes. The obscurity of the NCR in Fallout 2 lies in how its humble beginnings foreshadow its eventual dominance. The NCR grew from Shady Sands, the settlement first encountered by the Vault Dweller in Fallout 1. What began as a small farming village expanded into a republic, complete with a senate, president, and military. By the time of Fallout 2, the NCR is still young, with fewer territories than in later games, but its ambition is already clear. Its symbol, the two-headed bear, reflects both survival through mutation and strength through unity. For many players, encountering the NCR in Fallout 2 is their first glimpse of the political power that will later dominate Fallout New Vegas. The NCR is headquartered in the city of Shady Sands, though the Chosen One can see its influence extending northward. Patrols, caravans, and outposts carry the NCR's authority into new lands. Citizens speak of taxes, laws, and elections, presenting the NCR as a contrast to the anarchy of places like New Reno. For players accustomed to chaos, the NCR can feel refreshing, a glimpse of stability in a broken world. Yet, Fallout 2's writing ensures that this stability is not without cracks. One of the key leaders encountered is President Tandy, the daughter of Aradesh from Fallout 1. In the first game, Tandy was a kidnapped teenager rescued by the Vault Dweller. By Fallout 2, she has become President of the Republic, a figure both respected and admired. Her rise from villager to leader represents humanity's potential for growth and resilience. Speaking with Tandy in Fallout 2 provides both nostalgia and inspiration as she connects the past to the future. Her leadership shows that individuals matter and that one act of kindness in Fallout 1 set the stage for an entire republic. The NCR's ideology is built on democracy and law, but its contradictions are clear. While it preaches freedom and order, it also expands aggressively, absorbing smaller communities whether they want to join or not. For towns like Redding or Vault City, the NCR represents both opportunity and threat. Joining the Republic brings protection, trade, and stability, but it also means surrendering autonomy. Fallout 2 uses this tension to satirize the nature of governments, showing that even noble ideals can mask ambition. One obscure detail in Fallout 2 is how the NCR's military operates. Soldiers are equipped with uniforms and firearms, more disciplined than raiders, but less advanced than the Enclave. Their presence on the roads gives the impression of safety, but they are not invincible. Raiders still attack caravans, and corruption sometimes undermines efficiency. This balance makes the NCR feel realistic, a government that is strong but not all-powerful, still struggling to impose order on a vast wasteland. The NCR's currency also highlights its ambition. While most of the wasteland relies on caps or barter, the NCR issues its own paper money. This currency represents an attempt to re-establish a centralized economy, a bold move in a world where resources are scarce. For some wastelanders, the NCR's money is worthless paper. For others, it is a sign of hope and civilization. This tension reflects Fallout's humor and satire, as even after nuclear war, arguments about money persist. The Chosen One's interactions with the NCR vary widely. Players may assist its patrols, support its expansion, or undermine its influence. The NCR is not presented as a simple good or evil faction, but as a complex government with strengths and flaws. This nuance makes the NCR one of Fallout 2's most memorable elements, as it sets the stage for its prominence in later games. Companions also provide perspectives on the NCR. Cassidy, with his gruff personality, often respects the stability the NCR provides, but remains wary of its bureaucracy. Sulik may see the Republic's expansion as another form of domination, echoing his distrust of authority. Marcus may view the NCR as proof that humans can rebuild, though he may also worry about its treatment of mutants. These dialogues remind players that the NCR's role is not universally positive or negative, but subject to interpretation. The visual design of NCR outposts in Fallout 2 emphasizes order amid ruin. Wooden palisades, flags bearing the two-headed bear, and uniformed soldiers create a sense of structure. These sites contrast sharply with the chaos of raider camps or the neon lights of New Reno. The NCR's presence feels deliberate, a reminder that civilization can be rebuilt, even if imperfectly. Another obscure aspect of the NCR in Fallout 2 is how its presence shapes the game's endings. Depending on the player's actions, the NCR may expand northward, absorbing towns like Redding or Vault City. Alternatively, its influence may falter, leaving those towns to other factions. These outcomes highlight Fallout 2's emphasis on consequence, as the player's choices help determine whether the NCR thrives or stalls. The NCR also represents Fallout's ongoing satire of politics. Its speeches, elections, and bureaucracy parody real-world governments, blending sincerity with humor. Papers shuffle endlessly, debates drag on, and soldiers enforce laws inconsistently. This portrayal captures both the promise and the flaws of democracy, reminding players that even noble systems require constant vigilance. By the time the Chosen One leaves NCR territory, they have witnessed one of the most important seeds of Fallout's future. The obscurities of Fallout 2's NCR President Tandy's leadership, the contradictions of expansion, the currency system, the military patrols, and the fragile balance of democracy all make it a pivotal part of the story. The NCR is not portrayed as perfect. It is ambitious, sometimes hypocritical, and always hungry for more territory. But it is also a symbol of humanity's refusal to surrender, proof that civilization can rise again from the ashes. In Fallout 2, the NCR stands as both a beacon of hope and a cautionary tale, reminding players that the line between order and domination is always thin. As the Chosen One journeys across Fallout 2's vast wasteland, the true brilliance of the game lies not only in its individual towns and factions, but in how all these pieces connect. Each location, from Arroyo's humble tribal roots to the Enclave's oil rig, represents a thread in a larger tapestry. The obscurity of Fallout 2 comes from the countless small details that interlink these places, forming a world that feels alive, unpredictable, and deeply human. One of the most striking aspects of Fallout 2 is how the game balances comedy and tragedy. In one moment, the player might be uncovering horrors in a vault, reading logs that describe twisted experiments. In the next, they might be rescuing a Brahmin from an outhouse or accidentally marrying a farmer's child in Modoc. This tonal whiplash is intentional, reminding players that the wasteland is not just bleak but absurd. Life after the bombs is strange, and Fallout 2 embraces that strangeness to create a world unlike any other. The Chosen One's role in this world emphasizes the importance of choice. In Fallout 1, the Vault Dweller was tasked with saving their vault. In Fallout 2, the Chosen One carries the burden of saving an entire tribe. This shift raises the stakes, and yet the game ensures that the player never feels like a mere hero in a storybook. The Chosen One can be noble or cruel, selfish or generous, chaotic or disciplined. Every decision ripples outward, shaping communities like Redding, Broken Hills, and New Reno in ways that linger even after the player moves on. Fallout 2's obscurities often emerge from its smaller quests and throwaway details. A drunken NPC muttering about lost times, a child running through a street, or a terminal entry hidden deep in a vault all add layers to the world. Players who rush may miss these details, but those who linger discover that the game is filled with secrets. The humor, the satire, and the tragedy all reward curiosity. Fallout 2 was built for exploration, not just of maps, but of ideas. Companions also highlight the interconnectedness of the game. Sulik, Cassidy, Marcus, and others bring their own perspectives to the journey, commenting on locations and decisions. Their voices remind players that the wasteland is not experienced alone. Each companion carries their own history, and their reactions to towns like Vault City or New Reno reflect how diverse the world truly island. These subtle commentaries enrich the narrative, making the wasteland feel less like a backdrop and more like a living environment. Thematically, Fallout 2 deepens the series' critique of authority, greed, and human nature. Vault City parodies bureaucracy, New Reno parodies vice, Gecko parodies prejudice, and the Enclave parodies authoritarian nationalism. Together, these locations form a mosaic of human flaws and ambitions. Fallout 2 does not present a single villain, but a series of systems that threaten survival in different ways. This variety ensures that the game never feels one-dimensional. Instead, it constantly shifts, forcing players to question what kind of future they want to shape. Another obscure strength of Fallout 2 lies in its endings. The game concludes not with a single cinematic, but with slideshows describing the fate of each community. These endings vary depending on the chosen one's actions, creating a sense of continuity and consequence. Did Redding fall to jet addiction or thrive under new leadership? Did Broken Hills remain a symbol of unity or collapse into prejudice? Did the NCR expand or falter? Each ending reflects choices made along the way, reinforcing the idea that the wasteland is not static, but shaped by the player's journey. The Enclave's defeat at the oil rig may serve as the climax, but Fallout 2's true legacy lies in these smaller stories. It is not just about saving the tribe of Arroyo, but about leaving a mark on every town visited. The Chosen One is not a wandering stranger, but a force of change, whether for good or ill. This design philosophy sets Fallout 2 apart, ensuring that it remains one of the most replayable entries in the series. Obscure details also highlight Fallout 2's humor and irreverence. From references to pop culture hidden in dialogue, to absurd side quests like starring in an adult film in New Reno, the game constantly breaks expectations. These moments remind players not to take the wasteland too seriously, even as it explores heavy themes like addiction, prejudice, and authoritarianism. This blend of comedy and darkness is the essence of Fallout's identity. Fallout 2 also expanded the series mechanically, introducing more complex dialogue trees, larger maps, and intricate reputation systems. These systems may seem subtle compared to modern games, but at the time they were groundbreaking. The ability to shape not just individual conversations, but entire towns through choices added depth that made the world feel alive. Many of these mechanics influenced later RPGs, making Fallout 2 not only a landmark for its own series, but for gaming as a whole. Another often overlooked aspect of Fallout 2 is its portrayal of time. Events change depending on how long the player takes. Raiders may attack towns, communities may fall, and outcomes may shift if the Chosen One delays too long. This mechanic emphasizes urgency, reminding players that the wasteland does not wait. It is a subtle but powerful way of reinforcing the idea that survival is not static, but dynamic. The legacy of Fallout 2 stretches far beyond its release. Fallout New Vegas, in particular, draws heavily from its tone and themes, embracing satire, faction conflict, and moral ambiguity. Characters like Marcus return, and factions like the NCR carry forward their contradictions. Even Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, though different in style, echo elements of Fallout 2's design. The influence is undeniable, as later entries continue to wrestle with questions first asked in this game. In the end, Fallout 2 remains a masterpiece, not because of any single quest or location, but because of how all its pieces connect. Arroyo's tribal roots, Klamath's rustic survival, the den's cruelty, Vault City's authoritarianism, New Reno's vice, Gecko's reactor, Modoc's absurdity, Redding's addiction, Broken Hill's unity, San Francisco's contradictions, the Enclave's tyranny, and the many vaults all combine to form a world both absurd and profound. The obscurities scattered across this journey, small details, side quests, companion dialogues, are what make the game endlessly fascinating. By the time the credits roll, players realize they have not just completed a story, but lived in a world. Fallout 2 endures because it dares to be messy, funny, tragic, and unpredictable all at once. It is a game that invites players to laugh, to reflect, and to shape the wasteland in their own image. Its obscurities are its treasures, ensuring that every playthrough offers something new. Fallout 2's legacy is one of courage. Courage to mix comedy with tragedy, courage to satirize authority, and courage to give players real freedom. In a world scarred by nuclear fire, Fallout 2 dares to say that survival is not enough. Humanity must choose what kind of future it will build, and in that choice lies the heart of the wasteland.